friends Amy and Adams back. Woo-hoo! And I've always been away, so I am so blessed and glad to be here today. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, and welcome to Unity of Ames. I'm your platform assistant this morning. I'll try to remember how to do this. We're singing that next week. If y'all want to come back, that's on the menu for next week. We'd be happy to have you be musicians for that. All right. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Unity of Ames. We are glad you are here, and welcome everyone. All right, let's have a moment of prayer. Divine, sweet Spirit, living, loving presence of God, we come into this sanctuary this morning to hear it filled with holy joy, music, laughter, and celebration. This month we celebrate our birthday, we celebrate the power of understanding. We celebrate our ever-deepening awareness that the power of spirit is what stands under everything that we do. It is out of that spirit that all that we do comes forth. When we go to that place of knowing what stands under all that we do, we are assured of going forward in confidence and clarity, knowing that we are blessed and we are a blessing. And we are so grateful for all the blessings that we have received. We are so grateful for all who are here, who co-create this wonderful celebration experience. We pray all these things in the name and through the nature of Jesus Christ, our way-shower, and from that place of the Christ within us. And so we say, Amen, Amen. So it is, and so we let it be. And now, into a prayerful state, and say together our offering, not our offering blessing, I'm in my script, you know. Say together, Unity Foundation Statement, Unity Worldwide Ministries Foundation Statement. And the intention is to hold this as a prayer together. So let's say it together, please. There is one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good, omnipotent. And so it is. And we also say our Unity of Ames affirmation, our Unity Church of Ames affirmation, and we hold this also as a sacred intention. So let us say that together. Through the Christ Spirit in us, we create a better church and a better world. So be it. And now, thank you. Please be seated. And do we have a daily work leader today? Come do it, please. I have to stand at the mic over there.
Morning. Good morning. The word for today is prosperity. God is my source for all I need and desire. I may be stuck in my thinking about prosperity. I may think of it as possessing things like a home, car, or fashionable clothing. Charles Fillmore called this material prosperity. He taught us about more rewarding kind of prosperity, spiritual prosperity. We receive this gift when we understand God is our inexhaustible, always present source of all we need and desire. Spiritual prosperity appears in many ways, only some of which are things. I am blessed by answered prayers, loving relationships, and the contentment of a job well done. I know God is my source for all I need and desire. Peace of mind is mine as I embrace spiritual prosperity. Store up yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes. For wherever your treasure is, there your heart will also be. Matthew 6:20-21.
Thank you, thank you. Oops. And I think we are ready for our guests. Mark, I want to call you Mark and Amy and Anna.
Wow. Amy's always good.
Amy's always good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's really a pleasure to be back, and it's always nice to be back because we usually stop here on our way home. So it's nice to have this be the last visit that we have in Iowa. Maybe some of you know I'm actually from Iowa. I grew up in Marshalltown, which is, well, I haven't grown up yet. I was born and raised in Marshalltown. And so it's always nice to come home. It's kind of interesting at this point in my life that coming home means something different because my parents are gone. So that little bit of driving up the driveway and walking into the house and seeing my mom and dad, it's different. So it changes the way you feel about home. And I see a lot of you nodding, so you understand what I'm talking about. But it's still wonderful, and there's still memories, and there's still a house. So one of the things that we like to do when we come back here is be able to stop here because it really makes going home feel like a completion. So thank you for having us time and again, because it really means a lot to us. You know that phrase they talk about, don't put old wine in an old skin, or new wine. Jeez, I need to wake up, hold on. Don't put new wine in an old skin. Now that means something a little bit different to me now than it used to, because I have this thing that I talk about, shedding the spiritual skin. And shedding the spiritual skin means outgrowing the container that you used to put your spirituality in. And that's kind of what my talk is about today, because I think all of us are seekers, and I think a lot of people in Unity came here because we're seeking something. Maybe we've shed our old skin and we're getting a new skin, or maybe we've shed our own skin. And a lot of times we aren't quite done shedding the skin because it's never quite done. We think it's going to be done and we're going to move on and we're going to have a brand new skin that's going to last us for the rest of our lives. And then boom, we realize, hey, this skin's wrinkling and whatever, and it's, I'm outgrowing it. And the last thing we really want to do is shed that skin, but it does it anyway, no matter what we do. So over the years, I've studied a lot of spiritual teachings, a lot of books. I've read the Bible a lot. And I have a couple of favorite passages in the Bible. In the Old Testament, my favorite is the 23rd Psalm. I think whenever I read that, especially the King James Version, it is such a peaceful thing. It immediately changes your perspective on things. And I don't think it's the words so much as the pacing and the feeling and the images that it takes you to that changes you. And with me, it makes me feel calm. So that's one of my favorite passages. My other favorite passages are the Sermon on the Mount. And just about any version of that is fine. And then my other favorite passage is Jesus' new commandment. And that new commandment is the second part of it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Now that seems pretty clear. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. But in outgrowing my spiritual skin, I've kind of shed my old meaning of what I thought that meant, and what has always been explained to me it means. And now I have a new meaning. And over the time, I've thought of doing this talk, and I've never ever done this talk, and I have a story that I wrote just a couple weeks ago, and so I'm going to cling to the page a little bit more than I have been. I begin my tale. The summer had been so hot and dry, it had scorched the seeds Ezra and his wife and 2 children had planted. They might just as well have eaten them. The milk their 2 goats had produced had risen to a mere trickle. Ezra and his wife, Lila, had only eaten rarely in the last several weeks so as to feed their children. But they were quickly coming to the end of their stores. They knew all too soon their children's stomachs would be as empty as their own. That morning, Ezra came to Lila dressed in his best robe and sandals. Lila knew Ezra was going to leave home. "You're leaving today, Ezra?" she asked. "Yes." And he reached into his pocket of his robe and held up a shining object. "No," Lila protested. "That's the only thing you have left of your parents." Ezra stared at the golden locket and opened it to peer again at the sketches of his mother and father. "Lila, we either keep this or our children." Ezra said with both tears and defiance in his eyes. Today is the market, and I will sell it for food, and pray to God we get enough to last till the next rain. Lila leaned in and kissed Ezra tenderly on his cheek. God go with you, Lila said, and then she looked towards the children's bedroom. They are still asleep, Ezra confirmed, and I've already kissed them goodbye. Ezra made his way through the door and turned to Lila and said, I'll be back before dark. That same sweltering day, in the opposite direction on the same road as Ezra, Talon had begun early to get miles in before the sun made walking impossible. Talon had been on this journey for several weeks. Actually, it seemed to Talon that he'd been on a journey most of his life. This journey, like almost every other one, began in hopes of actually finding not only the still small voice, but the actual face of God. True, Talon had been certain he found God countless times before, but it didn't take long to see that he had actually found in reality another treasure trove of unanswered questions. So he started his day, like so many others, with the simple prayer, Lord, may I find you today. May I hear your voice. May I see your face, so that I will know, actually know, you. Talon had long ago outgrown the idea that mere belief was enough to maintain faith. To Talon, belief without knowing was as empty as the sky had been in rain. To Talon, all the great books attributed to God were human words that often fell to the ground like impotent seeds. It was time for God to show him or her or itself once and for all. So on he walked, but to where he knew not. By mid-morning, Ezra had made it to the village and had been to the market. Fortunately for him, he had indeed sold his locket and purchased a full pack of food that would feed his family for at least 3 weeks, if they were careful. Ezra even felt like he had taken advantage of his buyer. Perhaps, he thought, the buyer had noticed how loosely his robe hung or how shallow his cheeks looked. Thank you, God, Ezra whispered to himself. Thank you for breathing kindness into the hearts of others. Ezra knew the heat of day, his weakened state, and his blessed heavy load would make travel slow and arduous. But he knew he could find rest and sate himself at the water hole halfway home. The hours passed as the heat slowed him down. Ezra was about to lay down his burden and himself when he heard a gruff and threatening voice say, Don't set that down. Bring it here, now. Ezra looked up and wiped the sweat from his eyes. Before him appeared 3 grubby, nasty-looking men. The man who spoke was pointing a knife at Ezra. The other 2 each threatened to back up the first with gnarled canes. Looking into the face of the leader, Ezra pleaded, This is the food for my wife and children, who haven't eaten for days. If I give this to you, they will die. If you don't, the man answered, you will die right now. Ezra hefted his bag back onto his shoulder and began to run, but there was no speed left in his legs, and he was soon overwhelmed by the 3 thieves who not only tore his bag from his shoulders, but beat him with cane and fist and cut him in several places. Ezra fell to his knees. One of the thieves prepared to finish Ezra off with his cane when the knife wielder cautioned, you could break that thing over his head, but why waste your energy? He's already dead. You're right, his partner agreed, and instead kicked Ezra to the ground. Sleep tight, the man sneered. The 3 thieves headed back towards the village and to the market, laughing and hurling taunts and insults at Ezra as he lay bleeding along the side of the road. God help me, please, he cried in his almost silent voice. For an hour, Ezra laid along the side of the road praying, staunching his wounds and trying to hold on for help. In the distance, he heard a burro hee-haw and then heard his master shout, Come along, Silas. Hope sprung into Ezra's heart, and he somehow gained the strength to call out, Please, I'm hurt. Over here. Ezra's plea startled both master and mule. The master became fearful that he might become the victim of the thieves he knew frequented this road. So he stood silent and held his burro's mouth shut. "Come on now," he whispered to his donkey. "Let's get out of here." Seeing the man and the donkey scurrying away, Ezra called out, "No, please help me, my children, my wife." But Ezra's call was in vain. Another hour passed. The sun cauterized Ezra's least egregious wounds and split his desiccated lips. It was then that Ezra heard what sounded like a prayer chant that he learned as a child. Yes, he heard it. "God, my Father, I am your faithful son. I obey your every righteous commandment." The chant's repeated, even closer now. Somehow Ezra forced himself up onto one elbow and yelled, "Over here, please, help." But there came no reply. Instead, closer than before, Ezra heard, "God, my Father, I am your faithful son. I obey your every righteous commandment." Ezra tried to call out again, but could not breathe enough for his words to travel beyond his cheeks. The man and the sounds moved away until Ezra could no longer understand the chants. Talon had no idea of how long he'd been walking on this new road. Yes, it was dry and hot. Yes, his throat was parched, but he had pledged to ration his water, so instead he slaked his thirst with his own saliva. But there was peacefulness in the heat, and Talon felt curiously like he was being drawn towards something familiar, and yet quite different from anything he'd ever known or felt. "Is that you, God?" he whispered, as if he was afraid of fooling himself. "Come on, just say something, anything. Beseech me, please." Talon stopped to listen, but heard nothing, and began to snicker himself. "I thought so," the still small voice of heat stroke. But then Talon was pretty sure he did hear something. Something small indeed, but it didn't seem too still. "Who's there?" Talon called out. Again he heard something, hardly loud enough to qualify as a whisper. He perked up his ears and called out, "Who is there?" From the side of the road came a still small plea. "Help! Help me, please!" Straining his eyes and searching the area where the plea seemed to come from, Talon barely made out the stripes on Ezra's robe, the stripes in the blood, both wet and dry. Then Talon saw Ezra's mangled head and legs. Again he heard, "Please help." As Talon hurried towards the heap of man and cloth, he cried out, "Yes, yes, I'm coming." Reaching Ezra, Talon bent down and carefully assessed the situation and the potential danger of moving Ezra. To Talon, time now seemed far more urgent than any other potential danger. He knelt beside Ezra and turned him on his back. "My God, who did this to you?" Talon demanded of the air as much as Ezra. Talon pulled his water skin from his shoulder, opened it, and touched it to Ezra's blistered lips. "Take it easy. Just a few drops." If Ezra could have even felt pain, he would have torn his lips away from the skin. Instead, he allowed first one, then two, then 3 drops of water to separate his tongue from his palate. "That's right," Talon urged. "Real slow and easy." Soon the drops turned into sips. Ezra felt life and pain return to his body. Looking up in Talon's eyes, Ezra called, "They took it all." "All what?" Talon asked. "The food." "What food?" Talon asked. "For Lila and the children," Ezra added. "They'll all die." "Nobody's going to die today," Talon calmed and assured himself and Ezra. "Not if I have anything to say about it. Now be still and rest." Talon wet a cloth and began to wipe the dried blood from Ezra's brow. As he cradled Ezra's head in his arms, Talon felt his own plea escape unbidden from Dear God, help me. Help us. In that instant, Talon felt the separation between himself and Ezra melt away. He was overwhelmed by a light that emanated from Ezra's soul, which mingled, then joined with his own light. Then a third, an infinitely brighter light joined theirs. Two words Talon had hungered to say and mean his whole life filled his awestruck mind. My God. In that moment, Talon knew that he, the battered, nameless stranger he cradled, and his long-sought God were in fact one. Talon had finally loved his neighbor and his God, not like he loved himself, but as himself. Nobody did die that day, and not for many years. Talon and Lila nursed Ezra slowly back to health. The children grew strong, and in turn married, and had children of their own. And these new children only knew Talon as an uncle. I'm just a man
prepare for meditation with the song called Surely Presence.
Now I got two things. It used to be if I lose my guitar, that would be the only thing I would care about losing. Now, these. Although actually the only thing that really matters would be her. Amy.
Let's go to the beach. It's a beautiful day. It's not too hot and it's not too cool. So seat yourself either in one of your favorite beach chairs or right down on the sand. Once you get comfortably seated and take a look at the beautiful surroundings, fine white sand, clear blue water, some birds sailing on the breeze, you can close your eyes and take a deep, relaxing breath and listen to the world around you. The waves are lapping at the shore, the birds are calling to each other, and the leaves are lightly rustling in the trees behind you. Feel the gentle breeze brushing your cheeks. Pick up a handful of sand and let it fall through your fingers. This is God's world, created for you to be a part of. You're alone here, and yet you are not alone. The breath of God is in the breeze, whispering in your ear, "You are my precious child, whom I value and love." Think about this. All that surrounds you is yours and God's, including these quiet moments of communion. No, you are never truly alone. God is here. And before you slowly stand up to leave this spot, an old familiar song comes to mind. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's do the And Mark, we want the music to that one by one.
Okay.
And now we make our closing circle. So everybody will sing into our offering or into our closing circle. And let us sing our peace song. Let's do that now. Let's just go ahead to that. All right.
The love of God enfolds us.